It's your favorite squirrels, Shy and Lex. It's time for another episode of Black Girl, Brown Girl, Squirrel. We want to take a moment to acknowledge there are a variety of people who could describe themselves as neurodivergent, and this can include a diverse list of conditions, disorders, etc.
And while our experiences may specifically relate to autism spectrum disorder, ASD, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, we hope that all our listeners can feel welcome and relate to the shared experience of being neurodivergent in a neurotypical world, because this is our safe space.
Hey Lex.
Hey Shy.
How you doing today?
Doing pretty good. As I told you before we hit record, I'm a little distracted because I got ink on my hands and I can't get it off and it bothers me a lot. But other than that, we're fine.
And what did I say? What did you tell me that color ink was?
Black.
Mm-hmm. And then I showed you my menagerie of colored ink pens and said if they were colors, you would instantly know which pen it came from. But all your pens are black.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you have no clue where it came from?
Not got no clue.
Tisk tisk.
I also don't see anything that's smudged. So I'm really, it's whatever. It's, we have to move on.
Moving right along. So today's conversation is going to be interesting because it's all about communication and really how we as neurodivergent people or people with neurodivergence, how we communicate and how we can help others to understand how we communicate so that they can communicate more effectively with us. Because we are no longer fitting into the neurotypical world. They are going to have to start blending in with us.
Or not, and we just help each other figure it out. That's
or
the
that
actual option.
Hey, don't put out the fire or the little spark to my movement.
You just want to set fire to everything, and you have to be tamed.
We didn't start the fire. No, I mean, I genuinely made Lex laugh, people. Yay! Okay. All right. So, no, but seriously, let's get down to business here because there's some good stuff in here for us to talk about. And it might even be eye-opening for some of us that are just coming around to realizing we might be neurodivergent. And then, of course, we always want to make sure we're talking to our allies out there to help them better understand how to help us squirrels to be able to, how they can communicate more effectively with us and how they can help others to also do the same. So let's start off. So just to preface this, we do not cover every aspect of neurodivergence. We're covering the ones that we are most familiar with, which is autism, ADHD, and PDA. So those are the three we're primarily focusing on today. But as we've talked about before, there's a lot of commonalities with other forms of neurodivergence. So just stay tuned and listen to what we have to say because I guarantee you there's going to be something in here for everybody. All right. So autism and communication. What's generally how autistic people communicate?
All right. So autistic communication tends to be direct, honest, and literal. So there aren't any hidden meanings or social games happening there. That phrase, what you see is what you get, usually we say it and we actually mean it. A lot of people like to say that and they be lying. They don't know what that means. But truly, most of the time, I mean what I say and I say what I mean and I didn't mean anything else up under it. There's no other hidden thing you're supposed to be looking for. I just said the words I meant. They also may struggle with small talk, sarcasm, or implied meanings. It might include echolalia, which is repeating words and phrases, or scripting, which that one stood out to me because I have to have a script for most conversations that I'm having that aren't. If you're not very, very close to me, having a conversation with you, I promise you it came from a script that I had prepared in my mind. And autistic communication can sometimes involve difficulty processing verbal instructions or rapid speech. So I know in my case, because auditory processing is really good for me and I have a very good memory with remembering exactly what happened in a conversation.
Yes, she does.
Processing verbal instructions is not particularly hard for me, but rapid speech or just too much clutter in the speech. You're just giving me too much information at one time because I have to process every bit of it. So if there's too much of it coming at me, I don't know what to do with it, and then I shut down because I'm like, I don't know why you're telling me this. What I'm supposed to do? It has actually stressed me out to the point that I'll say to people, what am I supposed to do with this? Are you asking me to do something? What exactly are you doing? And what I've learned to do now is kind of be like, hey, are you telling me this just because? Are you talking out loud? Are you talking to me? Or are you just kind of thinking out loud? If you tell me you're thinking out loud, then I know I can ignore it because I don't have to process all of it. So those are some of the 4 major ways that stuck out for autistic communication. And something that I find interesting when it talks about struggling with implied meanings. I thought about this recently. A lot of communication that happens with neurotypical people is based on a lot of assumptions.
Yes.
And I don't assume anything. Why would I do that? So assuming that I would know what you meant by this, assuming that I would think to do this act without you telling me to do it, it simply isn't going to happen for me. But because I know that that's a thing, I will ask questions more in a conversation. So a lot of times people might have a conversation and they're like, okay, yeah, so this meant we're going to walk away from this and we're all going to do this task. You didn't say that though. You didn't actually say for anyone to do this task. So I'm like, so who's doing it? Who is doing this thing that we talked about? You mentioned you had this idea for this. So are we doing this idea, or are you just still saying that it's an idea that you have? Are we doing it? Then who in the room is doing it? When should they be starting it? Do I need to be following up on this, or is this not even in my scope at all? A lot of conversation, I feel like it's like implied who's going to be doing what.
Right.
But to me, I'm like, no, I'm lost, and we actually didn't finish this at all. And we need to actually finish it for me to know what's happening.
You know, and the funny thing is, like, when one of the things that we're taught when we are becoming trainers is don't assume that everyone in the room has knowledge about what you're going to be talking about. And also don't assume they don't have knowledge about what you're going to be talking about. So that I can see how that can also be a challenge in communicating with neurotypical people, because a lot of times they do assume you know what you're going to be talking about or what they're talking about, the jargon that they're using, the implications of, well, if we don't follow through on X, Y, and Z, then we all know the implications of that. And I've even sat in a room sometimes and goes, no, I don't. Are we talking financial? Are you talking, inventory? Are we talking layoffs? Like, where are we going with this? And even though I'm more adept, I can say, in being able to read a room and kind of pick up on different types of cues, the reality is that it's almost like there's so much implied in body language. There's so much implied in tone. And if you don't have a sense of any of that, and I've even learned that being around the deaf community, if you don't have a sense of any of that, that's going to sit there and you're going to be like, okay, are you saying that in a happy way, sad way, whatever? That's why body language and facial expressions are so important, like when you're doing sign language. So I can only imagine if you're autistic and you're sitting in a room and those things are there and you can't read them and pick them up, because it's almost like being colorblind. You can only see certain colors until somebody gives you some glasses where you can see all the colors. I can imagine how challenging that could be in having those conversations.
Yeah. And so what happens for me is I do have to ask a lot of questions to clarify something. And as we've kind of discussed in a previous episode, how someone's going to take those questions is going to differ from person to person.
Yeah.
Some people might see it as a challenge to their credibility, or some people might see it as, oh, thank you for asking. And then they tell me, if you're a thinking for asking person, you're my kind of person, because we can actually talk. If you're someone who's going to see it as a challenge, I'm going to be confused. It is also probably going to escalate more because I'm not going to notice you're aggravated until later. And by the time I'm noticing that you're aggravated, you're probably so aggravated. It's probably like really visible to other people. But to me, I didn't notice it. And then I'm like, well, why you ain't saying, I don't understand why you ain't asked me. Like, we could have avoided all of this. If you're like, why you asking me that? I'm like, oh, good question, because I don't understand this part. So
right.
It can be interesting sometimes.
And I think that's why oftentimes the onus is put on us as neurodivergent ones to clarify why we're asking certain things, or the onus is put on us to kind of get the information we need out of the conversation versus the ones that we're communicating with finding ways to communicate more effectively. And what I mean by that is, like you said, okay, so an implied, you said, okay, there's this new project. Are we working on the new project or not? Or were you just bringing up that project or that new idea? Why was it brought up? What's the connection? And I find, well, we'll get to ADHD in a minute, but I find sometimes in those conversations when I see the disconnects that are taking place, that's when my communication training kicks in and I go, okay, let me connect the dots for you guys. This is what she's wondering. This is this is that. Am I correct or did I miss that? And I know sometimes I've done that with you and you go, no. What I'm asking is this. Oh, because now I'm learning more about your brain now than what I've had in the past. We would just work through the conversations because we're friends. But in learning to really, I hate it to say it this way, respect you even more in your brain function even more. Now it's like, okay, what could she possibly be thinking that I'm not thinking of? Because what I just suggested might have been my way of thinking versus the way she was really thinking. And because I can slide into that neurotypical world of communication, it's easy to kind of figure out what they're trying to say and imply. So that's what I'm used to doing. And then I'm like, nope, curveball. This is not how this person is thinking, So that's where being neuroaffirming, as we've talked about in previous episodes, of coming and saying, okay, why don't you say what you're trying to say? What do you mean by that? Or what's causing you to ask that question? And if all of us honestly took more time to do that, communication would be so much easier. No matter what, it'd be so much better and so much easier. You've talked about scripting before, and it always fascinates me. I guess my question to you is, when do you know that you have to prepare a script?
Anytime I do anything. And I know that sounds really vague, but okay, if you are going into a restaurant and you know you need to tell them a table, how much thought do you have about that? Do you just walk in there and tell them, or do you have any kind of prepping yourself for that conversation?
I do have a prepping because more than likely as I'm walking up, I'm scanning the room, I'm scanning outside, I'm looking at all these things and I'm going, do I want to sit outside? Is it too cold? Is it too hot? Is this not? They get me inside. Am I going to be under this? Like my mind goes through this whole rapid fire checklist of things before I walk in and say, yes, I like a table. I like it to be inside or outside.
Oh, so you're just thinking about what's going to be comfortable for me sitting in here.
Right.
Okay, no. I'm saying
like, no. Okay, so no. Tell me, Alexis, what are you thinking about?
I get to the restaurant and I'm going to look up what it looks like inside to see what's the setup. Is the hostess table right when I walk in? How are the tables in there? What is it set up like? Is it one of you have to go in there, you have to go to the front counter and give them your order and then they give you a number, sit down, or is it a sit down? Okay, what is that? Okay, do we have a reservation? Who's the reservation's name under? Okay. Oh, it's under my name. I did this one. Okay. I'll walk in there. Okay, find the hostess. Smile. Hi, hostess. Yes, I'm doing good. How are you today? Thank you. Yes, I have a reservation for 4 under Alexis. Okay, thank you. Turn. Where do I sit? Okay, sit here. So, like that interaction with them did not come naturally to me. I actually had to think about, make sure you do these things in these steps. Like saying, hi, how are you to somebody, like raised in the South, that's what we do down here. But I have to think about it each time. I've understood now that I'm doing this because it's a polite thing to do. And like, this is the kindness that you show to other people. That is how we've all agreed. That's our little social contract. This is what we do. But I got to make sure I do it. And I also need to make sure I look you in the eyes when I do it. And then I need to remember to say these words. I have a reservation for 4 under Alexis. Thank you so much. Okay. Sit down. Okay. That's every time I do anything, right?
Wow.
When I go to work every day, there is a security desk that I have to walk past. I think about the fact that I have to say hello to them every single time I go into there.
Okay.
I prepare myself to say, good morning, how are you? Every time. Again, it's not just coming naturally. I'm thinking about the fact that I have to do this when I walk in there. Sometimes the act of having to do that is so much that I'm like, do I feel like walking down that way today? Or, what if I wore my headphones when I walked in there? Then I don't have to do it. They won't say anything to me if I got my headphones on because it just looks like I can't hear them anyway. And I don't even know why it's so uncomfortable for me, but that whole interaction is like, it's small talk, duh. That's why I hate it. Why are we doing this? I'm just going to work.
So if you have your headphones on, you won't even just throw up your hand like a hey and keep walking? Or has that never crossed your mind?
I don't think it crossed my mind to do that. Yeah, I think I was just like, I'll just walk and I'll just keep looking this way. And they don't say anything to me because I can't hear them. And then I guess they'd only wave if they make eye contact with me, but I don't do eye contact. So it prevents me from having to do that question. Labor.
Wow. So I knew that you said that when you went into new environments and things that you often have to have a script and think these things through. I wasn't necessarily thinking that this is something you do every day, even in the environments that you're used to going into. That is friggin' exhausting.
Yes. Yes, it is. It truly is.
Wow. I have a whole new respect for you. A deeper level.
Have you ever seen the show Love on the Spectrum?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So if you ever watch it, which I do think would be a good idea, it's a good time. It's a very heartwarming show. The one in Australia, I think, is very good. There'd be someone there to kind of coach them through having conversations and having a back and forth conversation to prepare them for these dates that they're going on, essentially, right? And I would watch her teach them how, like, hey, when you're having a conversation with somebody, they're going to ask you a question. She like, have a ball. And like, okay. But if I just ask you, hey, how's your day? And then you just start saying a whole bunch of stuff. You don't ask me anything back. It's like we rolling the ball, but you kept the ball.
Yes.
So it's like, maybe ask that back. And I was like, oh, you know what? I don't always do that. You might ask me a question and I just answer it, but I don't necessarily have a question back for you. And part of it is that's not intuitive to me to do that. I have to kind of remember to do that sometimes. The closer I get to somebody, it comes a little bit easier because I actually have things to ask about. Because, like, I know you and I like you and I want to know some more. But my first time meeting you, I ain't really got nothing to say. I just met you. Oh, okay, cool. Nice to meet you. I got nothing else. I have to think about, like, if I'm like, I should meet some new people, I should do this. I need to think about what am I going to say.
Wow. That just gave me an idea for a future episode. So I'm going to write that down. I knew that, like I said, I knew that when you were going into new environments, you prepared yourself. It didn't occur to me that you did this on a regular basis for environments you were already familiar with. Because the reality, I mean, that makes sense to me too, because even though, like, for instance, if you're going into your office every day, you know the people, but somebody new might come along. There might be a new VP that comes in there that now you've got to go into a meeting with, and you're like, now I got to start this process all over again, you know, or you're sitting in the meeting and you know that they're going to expect you to want to, you know, because I hate being in meetings sometimes where they're expecting you to ask a question or say something. And you're like, I ain't got nothing to say. It's fine. I agree with everything, or I understood everything. And now that pressure's on, like, okay, now I got to come up with something. I don't know this person. I don't like small talk. I don't like this. I don't like that. Plus, I don't want to come across sounding like, you know, some kind of robot. And then on the other hand, you know, like in my case, I don't want to come across like I'm a bumbling idiot. So, you know, that helped. And it also too, because the other question I was going to ask that you touched on, and if you want to elaborate, feel free to do so, was like, so when you are like with me and Jazz and Jen and our friends and stuff, even at small gatherings, you do kind of talk a little bit more freely, but do you still script a little bit, even if you're around us or coming into that gathering? Or
I think that, so if say it's like our core 4 ladies.
Yes.
I'll probably, like, I do have to remind myself to make sure I say hello to all of you and ask how you're doing. Not
Okay.
because I don't care how you're doing, but like
Right.
I'll just
It's
kind of,
not top of mind. Got it.
I'll just walk in the room. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of it. There's something about the formality of the greeting that's very uncomfortable for me. I'm not really sure why, but it just feels, greeting people is such a very odd experience. I feel very uncomfortable every time, but I know it's something that socially is like an expectation. And however we feel about societal expectations, they're there and they do portray a message, right? So if I am just like, I'm not saying anything, the message is I don't want to talk to you.
Yes.
And if I'm coming with my group of friends, I gotta greet you. So yes, I do have to think about that. Now, when we get to chatting and everything, stuff just kind of comes out. We're freely talking.
Yes.
But that first 60 seconds I walk in there, I'm uncomfortable. I am. And then it kind of fades.
But that's good to know. So since we're talking about communication and conversation, if there are others that feel as you do, even with their friends, what would you tell or suggest to those of us that want to make the environment more comfortable and more safe for you? What could we do, or how can we communicate with you to kind of ease that feeling that's coming up? Because that's adding anxiety and stress.
As you asked me that question, I'm not even really sure how to answer it.
Okay.
Because I've just been uncomfortable for 32 years. I don't know. I just kind of been showing up just like, well, this is what we do. I guess if someone doesn't maybe behave in a way that is common to a neurotypical experience, to maybe not let the first assumption be negative. Let it be that this is not even about you. Like, this person is just kind of existing. They're not thinking about trying to slight you. That came across a little bit what you might call weird or odd. Just let it go. It's fine.
Okay.
To not look too deeply into it, actually. How talking about autistic communication being direct and honest and literal and no hidden meanings. There's not even a hidden meaning in the awkward thing they did. It just happened, and there's nothing else to it.
You know what's so funny is that it's going to require, I know that for me and Jazz in particular, it's going to require a little bit more work, in the sense that not to take it personal and not to take it as, oh, she must be not in a good mood, or she just don't want to talk today, or this and that. Because that would be our first thought, inclination, whatever. I remember when we were on one of our trips, I came outside and you were just sitting there, you were chilling, you were taking in the ocean breeze. It was a nice sight. And I was like, hey, Lex. He was like, hey. And I was like, oh, she don't want to talk. So I just went around to the other side of the porch and just sat down for a minute, because I was like, oh, she was. But again, because I didn't know at the time I had ADHD, and I didn't really know that you had autism and understand what all that means. And I definitely don't know your brain like I know it now. I feel like since we've been doing this show, definitely gotten a lot deeper into your mindset, your brain, and I feel closer to you, but I'm also seeing you differently. So you're not just my little sister Lex. You're like, okay. You know, when we're doing this, I feel like your teacher Lex. And then I see you outside of this, and I'm like, all right, let me adjust how my approach is. Not to make it awkward or anything like that, but no, seriously, because I feel like that's the whole point of why we're doing this, right? So we can learn how we can help everyone in our community to feel safer, to feel like they can be themselves, to express themselves, and how to teach others to fit into our mold, so to speak, rather than us constantly trying to fit into everyone else's, because that's been exhausting us for umpteen years.
Do you remember, I sent you a video a while ago. I think I got it off YouTube Shorts, and it was about that t-shirt, Don't Hear What I Didn't Say, right?
Yes.
So with you saying like, oh, I came out there, you didn't really say much else to me, so I'm like, she doesn't want to talk to me, I'll just go over here. Did I say any of that?
Nope.
So I understand that it would take like some practice to even have that mindset. There's a lot that goes into that. There's RSD fighting that. There's so much that goes into that, right? But everyone is different, but most likely, if you are interacting with an autistic person and you are thinking that this person does not like you, or this person is upset with you, or this person feels uncomfortable with you, or something like that, and they never said those words to you, you made that up.
Well,
feelings are not facts.
But that's going back to the neurotypical conversations, right? Because that's how we're taught to imply or infer what someone is thinking, feeling, and so forth. It's what they did or did not say, the whole reading between the lines. It's the body language, it's the tone, it's the word choice, it's this is that. That's why sometimes I laugh. It's and it's not to be rude and laughing at you. It's just like, because in that part of neurotypical brain that has been trained in me, I sit there and I just go, oh my God, if she said that to anybody else, they would feel like, excuse me, like when you go, and no, and I just go, and I laugh because I just go, but I get it. But it does take, and then when you were talking about like me as a person, now understanding how I'm wired and think, it does take an adjustment, because it's like I have my now neurodivergent brain that I'm understanding competing against the neurotypical brain that's been taught into me, that I've had to fight to learn all these years, now competing to understand and interact with my other friend's neurodivergent brain that is autistic and is not going to communicate the same way I communicate on either side of this brain. And it's like, okay, so don't take it personal, because that's what my RSD is going to say. And that's also what my neurotypical is going to say. Well, this is the vibe she gave off. So then boom, so be it. The other side of me is like, how come she don't want to talk to me? It's a beautiful morning. I thought we could sit out here together and enjoy it together, and we can bond and we could be sisters.
And I'm sitting here listening to this story like, oh, friend, you could have just sat next to me. We could have not said anything together.
Exactly. Which we have done, but still, I remember that moment very clearly, and I was like, but I'm also very much into, like, when we go on our trips, we're there to relax, we're there to unwind. Some of us want to sit outside just to kind of get the peace. So I'm not going to disrupt your peace. I was like, morning, hey, and you was like, hey, and I was like, oh, that's as far, okay, bet she needs her space, so I'm gonna give her space. I didn't think nothing else of it. I wasn't mad about it, I was a little hurt, but not that hurt. I was like, she just wanted her space. Well, you know what, I want to sit outside too.
I'm curious, what would a neurotypical conversation look like in that situation? Like, what would you have expected me to do in that situation?
So if I was thinking neurotypically, I would have come out and say, hey, Lex, and you'd have been like, hey, Shy. And it would have been your tone that would have inferred to me that you were open to further conversation. So it'd have been like, hey, Shy. And I'd have been like, oh, hey. I was like, so what you doing? Sitting out here enjoying the breeze? Yeah, I'm just sitting here, just relaxing. You want to join me? Sure.
Was it just a flat tone when I said it?
I think so. It was just, it was, I can't say it was a flat tone. It was kind of like it was like, like how you're listening to music and somebody say, hey, and you go, hey. It was like that.
So it was kind of a neutral tone almost, like not much of anything to it.
So it wasn't one way or the other.
That's me all the time. I'm kind of like that all the time.
Yeah. But I know that now. I didn't really know that,
Yeah.
But again, I also too, part of me, because that's also the intuit side of me, the empathy me, as I look and I'm like, oh, they need some time alone. So sometimes I don't go out because, out onto the deck if I see somebody sitting there, because I'm like, they might need those few minutes just to sit there and just to be quiet. Maybe you're praying, maybe you're meditating, maybe you're just listening to your music or your podcast. I'm not going to interrupt that space. I can go find another quiet space and go chill in,
That is interesting. Let me look something up right quick.
So this is what we mean by how we all communicate differently and take things differently. Now, another person who is autistic, they might have looked at that and might have said, okay, come on and have might have told me to sit down. Lex is just simply going, I didn't tell you to or not to sit down, so you could have did whatever you wanted to until I told you not to do that thing.
Yeah. So when you were describing it to me, what it sounded like was maybe a neurotypical person, or just someone who is not having my kind of autism, thinks more about other people, like, and how other things are affecting other people. And again, I say that, and I said it before, it's not that I don't care about people, but you're simply not the first thing that comes to mind. So I remember that's like the root word for autism, right? And I looked it up to remind myself. So it has Greek roots. The Greek root is autos, meaning self. So, and some of like the symptoms, traits, or whatever of someone with autism, it's like a preference for solitude. I say a lot of times that other people's views of something, other people's experience, other people's thoughts about something aren't the first thing that comes to my mind. It doesn't. I'll give you an example. I asked Jasmine the other day when I cooked something, I was like, hey, what do you think if I made these things in the quesadillas? And she was like, I don't know. I guess are you asking for me? Like, are you asking for yourself? Like if you're going to eat? And I said, why would I ask you about what I want to eat? Why would I ask you that? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
But I understand sometimes people bounce ideas off of other people.
Yeah.
For a thing they're going to do. But I'm like, why would I ask your opinion on a thing that I'm going to be doing? What does that have to do with that?
Right.
So that's kind of me all the time. Like just the way and it sounds blunt, and I have to stop myself from saying this to people because I know it doesn't sound that great. But someone say, oh, I don't care about it. This ain't about you. This isn't about you at all. It has nothing to do with you. Because that's how I feel about it. Like, it has nothing to do with you. I have no regard for how you think about this because it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about right now.
Lex was like, I don't care. Like, zero's given about you. So, with that being said, I'm going to go do what I want to do.
And I can love and respect you so much and care about you so much, but also not care about what you think about this thing at the same time.
And that, you know what? That's, I can get that. Yeah, I can get that. And that, I mean, and I think that's why too, I know that's why I didn't take like offense to it. I wasn't like, even though it kind of hurt me a little bit because I was just me, but it wasn't that big of a deal to me. I was like, okay, she just wants some time alone, ain't it? Well, you know what? I want to come out here and sit and have some time alone and be quiet. So I'm going to go ahead. Since she didn't want to talk, I'm going to go around the corner and I'm going to sit and I'm going to enjoy this and take my time. And then I also felt like, well, then that tells me she's not going to bother me. So I can enjoy, I can find ways to reason and rationalize things, but I get what you're saying. And I just thought it was interesting because I said, I never asked this about, when we're all communicating. I know that you do a lot of work. I will put it like this. I recognize more now that you do a lot of work in communicating with us, especially me and Jazz. I know sometimes like me and Jen can laugh and get loud and that kind of a thing. So I'm pretty sure that can be a little bit of a sensory overload. Yes, I'm so positive about that. So before we move on, I just have this one other question. It really has nothing to do with communication, but I just found this interesting. So how can you handle concerts? Like, because we've gone to some concerts that are loud and fun, but loud.
I think this is when it goes into sensory overload versus sensory seeking. And I think it's heavily dependent on how much do I like the artist I'm going to see.
Got it.
How much am I enjoying the music that's happening? So when I saw BTS, loud, had a great time. When we saw NCT, fantastic time. I was screaming right along with y'all. I've been to another show. I wasn't enjoying the concert that much. I don't think they were performing as well. And it was very loud and I was shutting down. And I was like, cool, I know that I don't need to go see them again because for me, it's not an enjoyable experience. I also always have earplugs with me. They're on my keys. So if I feel overwhelmed, I can just pop them in.
Got it. Okay. I was just curious about that. I'm sure that'll come up again at some point because, I'm going to remember to forget when we...
You're going to forget to remember.
I'm going to forget to remember. Now, I'll remember to forget. But, when we get into our phases, like when we start talking about how we got into certain things that we got into, not realizing, well, I didn't realize it was a neurodivergent thing, but that's a whole other story. So let's go on and talk about, so these last two really are in my wheelhouse, but let's go ahead. So ADHD communication and the way that we talk. So it's really interesting because I find that we can vary from fast-paced talking I don't think I talk really fast sometimes, except if it's something that I'm really into. I think I talk fast for you. But unless it's something I'm really, really into, I don't think I talk very fast. At least people have not told me I'm a fast talker. Thoughts?
Okay, you know what? You might actually be onto something, because my experience of the world is different from others. So it might feel fast to me and not really be that fast to other people.
Okay.
That's very possible. I didn't even think about that until you just said it.
Yeah. We tend to go on a lot of tangents.
Yeah. Yeah. You
And
can't
we're
fight that one.
and we're full of excitement, which is very, very true. So I do know some that talk really, really fast, even for me. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, this is where I am grateful for having learned other languages, because one of the things that you learn when you're first learning a foreign language, and I shouldn't say foreign language, when you're learning another tongue, mother tongue outside of yours, is you may not know every word in the sentence, but you try to pick up keywords in the sentences that you do know so that you can follow along. And then our brains will naturally fill in the rest. So when I'm talking to people that are super fast paced and they're talking way faster than I am, and in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I wish you would slow down or shut up. I'm filling in gaps. Whereas someone who might have to process, I'm not a process oriented person except when it comes to certain things. So you being autistic and being process oriented, you would not be able to fill in the gaps because you're still stuck back on the very first thing that they said 30 minutes ago, and they've now gone on to 5 different other stories. Mm-hmm. So that's a communication thing. I get that. We do go on tangents because we will say whatever pops into our heads. Like I said, song lyrics, movie quotes, things like that come into my head all the time. And I literally have to stop myself from spewing something back out to people, or like you said you did, or spewing something out that people are like, how old is that? Or like, I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
And then we can be full of excitement, especially when it's something that it really is a passion of ours or something we feel passionately about. We do get very excited, and then we're trying to understand in our brains while we're sharing this excitement, why isn't this person excited? So now I've got to share even more information and share even more stories to connect to your heart and to connect to your senses to get you excited. Try being a trainer and dealing with all this. All right.
Oh, Lord.
Actually, I'm pretty phenomenal in my training classes. That's probably the one place that I'm kind of more focused and in control, because I have a limited amount of time. I have certain pieces of information I have to share, and that keeps me more focused. I thought once I got diagnosed, I paid attention to me, and I thought that I wasn't that way. No, I'm very much that way, especially if I know my material. Now, if I don't know my material, I might end up meandering, but when I know my material, I'm on point. We do struggle with interrupting. There are a lot of us that will interrupt, and we're not interrupting to be rude. You have said something that kicked off a thought that connected with us or resonated with us. And sometimes we interrupt and don't realize it. So when we would do, this is something that I learned the hard way. So when we would do collaborations at work, we're brainstorming. Well, my thought of brainstorming is everybody's throwing their ideas out there, period. So why can't you throw out your idea and I throw out an idea on top of that, and we just keep going? People thought I was trying to dominate and that I was being rude and I was taking over. And I'm like, no, you literally sparked an idea and we're brainstorming. So why would I not? If you say purple, why am I not going to say BTS, V, Jungkook, and just go? Like, what's the problem? I don't understand. Yeah, and people thought I would be trying to dominate and take over a conversation, and they make it seem like I knew more than others. And I'm like, no, you're sparking ideas. And then part of me would feel like, and I know this might sound a little hypocritical or contradictory, but then part of me would be like, if you would shut up and listen to the idea, you might be able to get another idea or see how this fits in to the overall puzzle. And then you'll come up with other pieces to the puzzle to make this fit. But because they would instantly shut down whatever I had to say, then it would go round and round and round. And then eventually I would wait, and then I would come back and say one of the things I said before. And they'd be like, oh, that's a good idea. I said that 30 minutes ago while we was popping off all these ideas. And forgetting details. I am not a detail-oriented person.
No.
I'm not. I'm not.
And that's okay.
I'll put
We're
it
all
like
different.
this. Let me put it like this. I can be detail oriented when it comes to certain things. When we're talking about like for the details and things, I can be detail oriented when it comes to certain things. So this is the way I describe how my brain works. And I think I've said it before, but it'll make sense when we're talking about details. I think of my brain when I see something, when I visualize something, it's the umbrella. It's like the big picture. And I can see all the spokes that need to go into making this big picture happen. That's the details. So I can outline pretty much all of that for you. And even I will put it in outline form, bulleted, sub bulleted, and everything else down to the nth degree. I just don't want to do the work. Right. So it's the umbrella, the big picture, the spokes that make it, that hold it up to make it all happen, and the handle is the end result of what you're trying to get done. I can do all the details. I once had a boss tell me I needed to be a director, and I said, why? She said, no, not a director, a VP. And I said, why? And she said, because you can come up with the big picture. You just don't want to do all the work to make it happen. And I was like, you're right. I have literally sat down and come up with business plans overnight for like umpteen businesses, and literally handed my book off to someone else and said, everything you need is right here. Just go. All you got to do is just go make it happen. Names of the businesses, what you can do, revenue streams, yada, 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 go make it happen. I'd had at the time had no entrepreneurial desires, but if I had, I wish I had that book back because everything was laid out. But when it comes to details, I have to make checklists. Otherwise, I will forget things. Even when I write training, I make checklists. Like once I write the training, I make a checklist to go back in and say, okay, now you need to go back and double check the grammar. You need to double check the images you're using. You need to double check that everything is functioning properly in the training, if there's video or audio or whatever. And if I don't have those checklists, I might forget to go back and do some of that stuff. And it's really hard. It's really hard. Losing track of conversations. I've lost track before they even started.
Oh, there's a lot of, okay, now what was I saying? I'll be like, I don't know, because we've hit 12 tangents, so I can't help you.
Or what was I about to say? I came to tell you that something triggered something else. And we used to joke and say, so on the show Martin, you had Shanae on there, and every time she would think, she would start looking around. And so me and my mom used to say, we'd be like, it's out there. Do you see it? I'm like, I'm about to pull a Shanae. Often thrives with humor. Yes, we do. Not that we think everything is funny. Sometimes I feel the need to bring some levity to a conversation or a situation. Sometimes it's cracking the joke while I'm thinking of what I'm going to say, so I'm saying it appropriately and not in a way that's going to come across offensive. Movement, yes, talk with my hands. I thrived in dance because I could talk with my body. I can say what I was thinking and feeling with my body versus having to use my mouth, that people often tell me I use too much.
Man, that has always been so hard for me to comprehend. And I think it's because I don't really, body language doesn't do a whole lot for me unless it's something like very, very big. So I think it's hard for me to comprehend the idea of communicating anything like through dance or your body or, yeah, it's hard for me to comprehend that.
Do you feel that same way when it comes to music and lyrics? Like the melody of music, the lyrics that people use?
If it's too abstract, I'm like, I don't understand what that meant. But sometimes I can, because verbal communication is something I rely heavily on, I don't think I struggle as much with that.
Okay.
And again, this is a lot of like auditory stuff with music, right? So I can tell maybe by the tone of the music that it's supposed to be invoking a particular feeling.
Got it. Okay.
So sometimes I can do that. Now, if you tell me to watch a music video, I'll be like, that was pretty. I got nothing. Don't ask me for no deep meaning with this music video. You want me to look at something and know what it meant? I don't know.
I was thinking the other day, that was a problem I had with poetry. As much as I love to read, poetry was something I always struggled with. If the metaphors or whatever, I don't even know, and I do know all the right words, but if any of those things were too abstract, Like, we read a poem one time. I don't even remember what the poem was. It's supposed to be some famous poem. We read the poem in honors English, and I'm sitting there going, and she's like, what does this mean? And what does that mean? And I was like, I don't know. Everybody else in the class was like, this means that he was bleeding. And I mean, like, literally, this was the conversation, because it was about someone putting a Band-Aid on a cut. Like, they got cut, they were bleeding, they put a Band-Aid on there, but it was how they said it. It was so far out there for me. I never got it. And I was like, what? And once they said it, I was like, oh, okay. But just reading it off the bat, I was like, That's probably why I liked Edgar Allan Poe so much, because he was just right there. He could just, anyway, tangent.
He was
Sorry.
pretty directly creepy, so yeah.
He was, but I loved him. And then interactive discussions. Yeah, I have to have interactive discussions. I'm going to ask you how you're doing. I'm going to wait for your response most of the time. I might overtalk you while you're saying you're fine. I was like, well, that's good. I'm glad to hear you're doing fine. I'm going to be, yes, hyper-focus on certain topics while tuning out others. Very much so. Very much so. I can sit down and go to work and tune everybody else in the world around me out. I can have a conversation with you and tune everything else out except what we're talking about. Hyper-focus is a superpower, and it can also be a foe as well, because it causes time blindness and so many other things. And you can forget to pay attention to the details because you focused in so much on one thing. Yeah.
It's such an opposite from how I communicate. It's so funny. It's so funny. I don't even know how we talk at all. I have trouble processing rapid speech or just like a bunch of stuff happening at me at one time, and you communicate by saying a bunch of stuff all the time at one time. I don't know how we talk at all. How do we even be friends? How did this happen?
Well, that was the episode that I said, oh, I need to put that down as a future episode, was like, how do we go about building this friendship? Because I really don't remember. It seemed kind of natural. To me, it seemed natural, but I'm sure that it took work on your end to even come to this side, the dark side, you know? So I just figured that'll be something interesting to focus on and just to talk about in general, because one of the challenges, let's be honest, with being neurodivergent is that relationships of all types can be challenging. Mm-hmm. It just is, from the communication, being, and being misunderstood, the types of feelings and emotions that we have. There's times when, as much, I grew up an extremely affectionate person. Like, I was constantly hugging. I constantly wanted hugs from my mom and all this kind of stuff. I had to be snuggled up next to you. I had to be touching you in some way, in some fashion. The older I got, the less I wanted that. I'm like, don't touch me. I don't want to be touched. And at one point I thought it was just a trauma response. Now I feel like it's definitely not just trauma and the PTSD, but it's the ADHD kicking in. And even more so in the last several years, don't touch me. It's just fascinating to me. And I think that's something we're talking about, is building friendships, relationships, and maintaining those, because there's so many challenges that come in that. But there's a lot of good that can come out of that too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for squirreling with us. Have questions? Want to share your experience or other feedback privately with us? You can email us at bgbsquirrel@gmail.com. That's bgbsquirrel@gmail.com.